Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the SLB Show. It's the day after, or by the time you listen to this, a couple of days after the trophy final weekend. What a tremendous weekend of basketball we had across SLB on Friday night. Some great away wins, but we're going to focus most of this show on what happened across the weekend in Birmingham. And I suppose both games maybe didn't turn out in different ways in which we thought. There's no spoilers because if you're listening to this, you probably know the results. But before we get into that, I am joined by Louis and Mitch. Mitch is in his hoodie, not feeling 100%. Sir, just needs to get on that brewed iron brew. And as Louis says, that'll make him better. But Louis, how are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Let's go.
And Mitch, thank you for joining us, even though you're under the weather. So what a lad. Going on to the final, Hatters took a commanding second half performance to beat the Gladiators 80-62, and in the men's final 74-68 that the Lions were winners over the Eagles. But let's get straight into it. Let's talk about the Betty Cardona final. And Mitch, you and I were mentioning throughout it a really brilliant end-to-end first half, wasn't it?
Absolutely loved the first half. It felt like, first of all, start of the game, it felt like everything was going into the basket. Like, first shot of both teams went in straight away.
Also, was Georgia Gale's first shot not off like 1 foot leaning backwards? Yeah. Like it was like, yeah.
side step back, like, one shot mid range. Yeah, it's class. Really interesting first half, back and forth, constant adaptation. Nobody took a massive commanding lead. They just kept fighting back and forth. And I mean, the fact that both quarters were exactly the same score. It's not like one took a lead, then one step back. It was 22-22 and 17-17. Like, it was neck and neck the entire way through.
We did kind of message saying that it did feel like the more consistent team through the opening half was the Hatters. Like, they just it did feel like, yeah, okay, there was never a big lead, but it was always the Gladiators chasing. And it did just feel like from the start, really, Sheffield had a game plan and it really worked.
Yeah, I mean, it's one that I would actually recommend if you want to see like a physicality in the women's game. Watch how Sheffield are playing defense. I think the team approach was a bit different for me. I think Caledonia felt a lot more reliant on individuals to try and take over the game, while Sheffield were a bit more reliant on trying to get good opportunities, good advantages through team play, and I think that really benefited them, especially in the second half. The start of the second was just ridiculous how that run they went on.
I think Gladiators, what did they score in the second? In the third quarter, 7 points, wasn't it? The first three of those being from the free throw line before a Hannah robbed 3-point where she was fouled for the 4-point play. When you look at the Gladiators that second half, there was Gladiators basketball. I always think when I've seen them obviously play a lot, and the way they beat the Hatters the last time out was by moving the ball. Hatters did a really good job of kind of just closing any passing lanes, stopping the ball getting out of Annie Warren's hands, really, didn't they?
Yeah, they very much forced Gladiators to try and go one-on-one as much as they could. And with that, it just meant that they played right into Sheffield's hands. And we talked about it at halftime of the game. They just need to pick up the pace a little bit. And Sheffield did that. Whenever they got the ball, they were looking ahead, looking for quick scores and just looking for quick opportunities to take advantage of Caledonia fighting back. And Caledonia had a wee bit where they tried to go into a zone, but after one or two possessions, Sheffield just shut it down straight away.
Yeah, because then Shauna Harrison hit 2 really big threes. I think they were at the start of the fourth quarter. It was shot into the ceiling, both of them. A kind of unheralded player at times for when you look at the quality that they had. Like they're two. Like that kind of double-edged sword of Nina Crisper and Antoinette Lewis off the bench, that kind of big for them, like that killed the Gladiators.
Yeah, I mean, combined they had 31 points between them?
Something like that, yeah. I was going to say it was maybe 32, but they were just incredible. And Louis, you obviously involved a little bit with the Sheffield organisation. Obviously, Betty Cardona means a lot to that kind of Sheffield family.
I mean, yeah, obviously, it's lineage, a lot of past history, and obviously goes through the family. A lot of relatives in the team. So yes, it'd be great.
I thought it was quite cool that they said on comms that Vanessa Ellis was wearing shoes given to her by Quinn. They were like Sparks. Quinn Ellis is.
Yeah.
her son, for those who don't know. Like they were like wearing shoes that he'd given her. I was like, that's dead cool. And it just felt like Hatters from the tip came and set the tempo, and I was Gladiators always playing catch up. But I really enjoyed the first half, obviously with my Gladiators hat on, but with my I enjoy watching women's basketball hat on. How Sheffield played second half, Mitch. They just total domination, both played so well both sides of the ball.
Yeah, they were just in complete control after that start of the second half. And every time Gladiators went on a little run or got some points in, Sheffield just stomped down and said, "No, we're taking this game. We won it." And I think that a lot of it's what we talked about on the day is Sheffield wanted it more. They showed up, especially in that latter half, and said, "We're not settling for a loss here. We need this win. We want this." And they came in and just did exactly what they needed to do. And yeah, it was massively impressive result and well deserved.
We also look further ahead. These two teams meet each other again in the Cup semi-final. It's a real shame it can't be another final between these two teams, as they are, in my opinion, quite clearly the two top teams this season so far. So a semi-final at Sheffield. You would expect then, unfortunately, Gladiators hat on there. Sheffield would go into that game major favourites, but being one step away from a final again for both those teams, good place to be.
Yeah, I think you mentioned as well, was it Chantel Charles said was new for Sheffield? That was her first game for the team. Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, like she played what? I mean, I never heard her before, but watching her play, she didn't score, but impact in the game was quite impressive.
Yeah, she was not ever present, but she was involved in the Lions during their winning season. I think she was injured for times of that. So a really top quality player to add in to as a presence. The other girl they added recently, Jess Aidsworth-Yates, she was amazing. She really came in, replacement for the injured Gandini, and kind of overseen from Fernandez as well. So Hatters had been quite beaten up with injuries, but you know what? In recent games, really getting themselves sorted, led by Mullings and Georgia Gale. So women's games, brilliant to watch. Big games this weekend for them as well. I know Gladiators are playing Essex, which will be a big test to see how they bounce back. And we'll be interested to see what happens on the road to the Cup final in Manchester. All right, let's move on to the men's final. And we did our predictions last week. Who was it? Louis, you weren't on last week, were you?
No, I was not.
No, because it was Lloyd. It was Lloyd last week. Again,
yeah.
No, it's not because it was Lloyd.
Not because it was Lloyd. No.
Let's not get that.
You would have been there. You were fanboying afterwards, asking us how it was. First of all, I suppose we get started. To everyone that's got engaged and watched that episode, I hope you all enjoyed it. It was really good having Lloyd on the show. Tremendous guest to have on. And hopefully we'll get some more people from around the league on soon. But we did our predictions. I think I said like 12. Mitch said 15. And Matt got it on the nose with 6 points. So, Mr. Hardy, well done. So, yes, the London Lions took the win 74-68. But, Louis, it very much looked like it was going to be a blowout through the first half.
Yeah, so the first quarter was actually quite close to initially negate what you were saying. But second quarter, it just became the Lions just did what Lions do. They completely shut down all of Newcastle's just offense, really. Yeah. You know, everyone's talked about their pickup points and just the sheer pressure they exert defensively on other teams, just blowing everything up for Newcastle. And then offensively, Newcastle were having some issues with that kind of like the pick and roll defense, where they could easily kind of get it over the roller and kind of get Newcastle in scramble situations, which is tough. And Lions' size kind of really made it tough for Newcastle, because as we saw with Dean Williams, who won MVP, had 5 assists. Why did they get 5 assists? Because early on they were getting...
Because he's a quality player.
Because he's a quality player, obviously. Lions are a Euro Cup side. Yeah. Let's not get that twisted. But they were getting Dean Williams in the post and other guys, but they were getting Dean Williams in the post, having him exploit a guy like Terrell Burden, who they kept on attacking. They attacked Rayshon Taylor in the post a couple of times too, but they were looking for help, and then Dean Williams would kick it out, open three, and that's kind of how the first half kind of went. Really, just a lot of mismatch hunting, really. So, yeah.
They're looking for defensive collapses. It was just kind of not easy, but for just simple basketball. They're just looking for the easy opportunities. They make a decision. Someone's open. Pass the ball. Score. It was just smart basketball from London across the board.
And what probably helped the third quarter from an Eagles point of view was that the Lions struggled to score. Both teams struggled to score, obviously, early in that third quarter. But it allowed Newcastle to at least have a similar margin. Like, the biggest lead was, 20, 21 points? But by teams not scoring, it kind of gave, I think it was Eagles, Maceo Jack and Cole Long kind of got them firing in towards that end of that third quarter. And I actually thought both of them had some really good games. Second half of them.
Yeah, my guy, as I've already stated, is Terrell Burden, who almost died that game. He was absolutely incredible performance. It was like Matthew Dellavedova against Steph Curry in the finals. He's absolutely killing himself.
Love you, Delhi.
Love you, Delhi. But just absolutely effort to the nth degree. Because one thing I've mentioned, I think in a previous pod, is just kind of is how I like small guards, kind of really agile small guards against London, because they're so agile and shifty in their handle. It allows them to create a consistent form of, a consistent source of advantage situations, as opposed to, other guys that might struggle who aren't as skilled handles wise. It might be quite a simple thing to kind of talk about, but if you have a guy to consistently collapse defenses against London, that's going to be crucial. And, Terrell Burden, he ended up with 6 assists, 0 turnovers, which is insane against London.
So, yeah, he finished with 20 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists.
Yeah, and 0 turnovers.
Which is very impressive.
Which is very impressive for a 5'9" guy.
And I think 5'9" is generous.
I think 5'9" is generous. It was just attacking the rim. Just getting to the rim consistently, man. It was crazy.
So his foot speed's incredible to watch, actually. The way there was a play, it was actually the one that kind of stood out was actually the layup he missed towards the end of the fourth.
Yeah.
Where he blew by. Was it Tariq he blew by?
Yeah. It was a crazy move. Snatched it back when.
Yeah.
And then he blew the layup. But it was
saw himself.
move.
He was like this afterwards, wasn't he? I think was that when the lead was about 6 or 7?
It would have been. It would have been a huge moment, but. He's so quick. He is so damn quick. Like I was saying on the Discord, the level of execution he needs to be able to get to the rim against a team of that size is just absolutely insane. If he was 6'2", it'd be incredible. But 5'9"
as well. Some of the hits he was taking in that game was ridiculous. Like some of the contact he was taking on fouls was just. How many times did he get knocked to the floor that game by a London player just by someone taking his so Reynolds got all unsportsmanlike on him, a couple of really hard fouls attacking the basket as well. He drew 10 fouls in the game according to stats, but it feels like it should have been more than that.
Just because he ended up falling across the floor.
Yeah, because the amount of hits he took just fall on the ground.
They were all heavy fouls, it felt like.
He fought so hard that game.
Yeah.
I felt so bad after.
Yeah. You saw the emotion.
Sorry,
you saw the emotion from Newcastle as the game was going on. They're getting closer and closer. That game's going. The passion, the emotions are rising and rising. It's like momentum was in their favour. Like you think if that game could go on another couple of minutes,
because the thing is, because the thing that they got success with at the kind of the end of the game, the lineup that kind of sparked the run was kind of like the hustle based lineup with Mitch Clark, obviously Terrell Burnham's killing it, a guy like Cole Long who's solid defensively. They had solid defensive players in that unit, enough to kind of offset what, the Lions is scoring, so that allowed them to catch up, practically speaking. That was stupidly put. But that's kind of what sparked the run, having guys that put effort in defensively, so there we go.
When we look back across at the Lions, another player, I suppose, Adamu did a great job. Price did a great job as well, getting points. But you could just tell in games like this, I was so impressed by Aaron Rye.
Yeah.
Like, they needed a bucket in the fourth quarter. It was Aaron Rye at the basket who got
time.
it.
Every time.
It just felt like Aaron Rye got... And there's been a lot of comments about what's his role this season, this Lions team. A big step up for him to go to Euro Cup. We're not seeing maybe the dominant Aaron Rye we've seen in previous seasons. And he maybe took time to find a role, but on games like yesterday, he was just in the right place at the right time.
He didn't miss a free. He made him miss a field goal for the game. Like he said, he had 11 points, didn't miss a shot, and missed one free throw, but he was just consistent across the board. And if that's what he's giving you as a role player on the best team in the league, what more can you ask for?
See, that's the plus of having a former MVP literally as a role player. That's the plus of having a Euro Cup budget. You can have a guy like Aaron Rye who takes a small amount of usage typically. Come end of the game, he's an MVP caliber player in our league. Yeah. Like, he can literally take the game over, and that's what he did. He took the game over, so yeah.
And he seems to be one that's maybe or probably benefiting from Lions having Joe Scott out injured, Jonathan Williams injured, Ovi Soko out injured as well. Like, three guys that he would probably be competing for minutes against. So he's maybe Euro Cup at times, maybe a step ahead of him at this stage because this is his first campaign doing it. But I really think he's acquitted himself well. And people can say, yes, but he's on the best team doing whatever else. But I just don't think you could ever say that Aaron Rye, like, for he's third season we've seen him in this league or in top flight British basketball. Like, he just always seems to be having a decent game or able to make a difference and impact. I just think that just shows real quality. Like, he's someone that he'll probably, because of the lack of Brits in this league, feature in the All-British team again. Like, do you know what I mean? Like he will.
I mean, he goddamn should. So...
Also, when you look at Coach Sabonis, his first win as a trophy as a coach, you actually could see what it meant to him post-game. Arguably, he was the most excited out of all of them. At 33, he's doing that, Mitch, and you're sitting there for the day on, and we're doing a podcast. So
don't say that.
Hey, I've got 2 years. Okay, every time.
But you know what? It's good for him. In terms of Lions getting that first success in this kind of new regime, I suppose. They'll arguably be disappointed with Euro Cup, but again, you could almost say Jonathan Williams out hurt for the last couple of weeks. Joel Scott, big part of what they had planned, Louis. So adapting, and you saw what that kind of winning feeling did for them yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of Euro Cup, I mean, you're literally looking at a team like competing against teams like Turk Telecom with like it's like £10 million worth of like player budget with guys like Amin Adamu. But anyway, to get on it, it's great for Sabonis to get like in his rookie coach campaign to get a trophy, and guys like Aaron Rye did step up. It's fair to say guys like Dean Williams, he originally in the season he wouldn't have been recruited to be a starter, I wouldn't imagine. But now they're getting like a great tune out of him. It's great to see an actual like homegrown British guy do well in Dean Williams. So yeah, big up.
And you know what? When you look at Lions, their focus probably shifts now. Europe's kind of finished for them. There's all talk about players leaving and going and whatnot. So curious to see what happens. But with that happening, that Bristol getting a win against them, Manchester getting a win against them, you'd say that their full focus will now shift back into the SLB.
You'd have to think so. And this will not be the only final they're in this year, let's be honest. If they're not in at least one more, if not all three of the finals, like it's not it's not a success for this team. Let's be honest. And we'll see who comes and goes. We've saw the graphic with the amount of players on that picture that London posted of all the players for that championship went. Like, if even 2 or 3 of those players do end up leaving, they've still got a really dominant squad to compete in the SLB. Like, it doesn't matter which 3 you take out, really. They're still going to be a really tough team to beat, with games in hand, going into a knockout competition as well with the cup coming up. Like, it's going to be a hard night for anybody.
Yeah, to add on to that, like, they don't need the star talent. They're so dominant defensively.
Yeah.
You know, guys like Kieran Sandy can step in and be one of the best defenders in the league, you know, on a rotational
Kieran
basis.
Sandy for GB.
Put down a hashtag. But guys like that, guys like Mo Solawade coming back, you know, one of the best defenders in SLB. I will like put that out there, you know. So they don't need the overwhelming talent of guys like Joel Scott to be dominant. You know, they have a system with Sabonis that, you know, can transcend that kind of lack of talent through, you know, defensive doggedness, to put that in a phrase. So
I like that.
yeah.
And I think we saw that in the final as well. It's like, even small runs Newcastle went on, Sabonis took an early timeout and held individuals accountable, not just the team, of mistakes they're making. Like, he's taken, like, I remember seeing one of the timeouts, he literally, before the timeout, he wasted like 20 seconds of his timeout talking to Tariq individually before he was stepping into the timeout to fix his individual mistake. Like, it's very clear that his system is based on everyone doing their job and doing it well, but also everyone has individual responsibility to play their part. And he's holding them accountable to that standard. And that's what they need if we want to see teams at the highest level. If you want to see a team improve and be at Eurocup and competing at Eurocup in years going forward, they need that standard and demand there. The bare minimum is not enough anymore.
So what do we see is next for some like this London team? Is it just dominating the rest of the season? Is it trying to do something that they've not done the last couple of seasons, is win on multiple fronts? Is that what this London team will aim to do? Obviously, they finished top of the table last year, didn't win the cup, didn't win the trophy, didn't win the playoffs. Well, I suppose someone like Lens will be looking to, or hoping that his team can bounce through that and dominate again. Or is it also looking for them to get the big news off the court in terms of facilities and whatnot, with obviously NBA sniffing around?
I mean, I'm sure they'd be looking for everything. I mean, with a squad like that, you need them to win. It's, to be perfectly frank, you know, if they're not winning the SLB with a Euro Cup budget, that's bad.
Well, I suppose will they have? When we look at expectations heading into the season, will the Kaunas ownership be? Where would they rank this if we're talking about ratings?
In terms of like importance, where does that rank? I mean,
yeah, but more also, obviously, Eurocups happened. A lot of major injuries in that campaign. Let's be honest, they have. Where do we reckon that the Lithuanians would rank this? Like, obviously, is this the minimum requirement? Is SLB dominance?
That's actually a really interesting question. Like, what were they expecting in terms of Eurocup? Because I mean,
genuinely,
genuine question. Because obviously,
that's a good question.
Yeah,
thank you.
That's all right, Grant. You can find me later. But anyway, because if you look at the roster from my perspective, prior to the season, they didn't really recruit like a good Eurocup roster. You know, they were getting guys like Cam Magusti from Poland, for instance.
But it was guys who had done well in Europe Cup who were probably looking to step up to Euro Cup.
It was basically grabbing people to step up, like Joel Scott, who didn't. Yeah. And guys like, they had a lot of British talent, which I feel like internally perhaps they weren't expecting to do as well as they did, or weren't expected to be as impactful on the Euro Cup stage. Yeah, reliant, basically, as you say. So I'm kind of thinking internally they probably weren't expecting that much from this season, really, to be honest. Like, be competitive for sure. You know, you're not gonna spend that much money expect to get trounced. But
no, but there's so many games that they lost by like a basket,
small,
2 baskets.
Yeah, small margins.
Like it very much feels like a campaign for them, that a lot of what ifs that maybe next season when Sabonis is in year 2 of coaching,
I
they'll
think
get those wins.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting kind of angle to look at it in terms of like development, because we're seeing, like you mentioned earlier with Aaron Wright, we're seeing guys that are new to that level of play. So in terms of developmentally, obviously with Sabonis as a coach, developmentally, year 2, you'd expect a further boost. But guys like Amin Adamu, who literally never played point guard ever in his life, probably
Been
this season,
so much impressive.
Like having to like play point guard this season to kind of adapt to that, trying to get like the British talent up to that level, I'm assuming. So that's an interesting angle to look at it. I don't know. You can take it however you want it, but
I think you're on the right track. I think that you've got to think from their perspective. They're coming from a Lithuanian side who have been dominant there, who, let's be honest, the perception of British basketball on that side of Europe isn't exactly very positive.
no.
It's
No.
They don't view us in any extent of being very impressive. I mean, you take the GB game where they came back and had the now historic victory they did in London. They did. Like, they don't value us with any sort of respect. But I think this is, for me, I think I'm agreeing with you, Louis. I think this has been a developmental season for them. And I think I get the impression London's plans over 2-3 years. This is about developing Sabonis' coaching to make sure he's of a standard of Euro Cup, but also can he show to develop players to be of that standard as well? You're bringing in some very raw, high potential players in Brits who are very talented, hadn't had the opportunity, and developing under a Euro Cup style system or a Euro Cup level to be of that standard. I think domestically, expectation would have been to set the stand, what has been done when they weren't played in Euro Cup before, which was dominant in the league, be consistent in the league, but compete and make it to finals for silverware. They've already achieved one of those targets already, but I think they're looking 2-3 years down the line. I think they're thinking by 2-3 years down the line, we should be competing consistently at a high level in Euro Cup. And there should be at least one, if not 2 or 3 teams in the domestic competition fighting with us to make it a competition. But we have to set the standard of what they should be trying to fight with.
In 2 or 3 years, what are they going to be looking at? NBA Europe, bro.
Well, that's what I was about to say. I was going to say they're going to be hoping. Well, we've obviously heard the noises this week, or EuroLeague. That's why that's what the pen was pointing towards, Lee. That's where I was going.
If they raise the profile enough and they raise the package enough, then potentially. But I mean, we've already kind of got the impression right now in the NBA Europe aren't interested in SLB teams. Like, there's been some talk of Manchester.
No. Because teams have to play in SLB. I mean, I get what you're saying, that they're not going to be interested in SLB teams, but
But they're interested in SLB. Continue. Yes.
Yeah, they're interested in SLB because they want to have teams based in the UK because they have to play in our domestic competition to be part of the league. But what I'm meaning is they're not looking at SLB teams thinking, let's push them to NBA level. They're looking at can we inject new teams into this league that are going to play in NBA Europe to fit our product? Because London's been basically ignored despite them playing Euro Cup already. Manchester have been talking about it already, but those are the 2 cities, and neither of the SLB clubs have been in any conversations really at all. So you have to think that the only way for them to get that recognition is to actually raise their own profile, which means that London need to be better in a couple of years. Manchester need to be massively improving in the next couple of years, or they're just going to get ignored entirely.
What are you going to say, Louis?
Well, obviously, Manchester basketball wasn't an article, but anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I read the article, and if the roots are there, I'll see them when they are, but I'm not seeing a tree growing right now.
All right, when we look at the other side of that, bouncing out this final, Eagles getting this final, it seemed almost like a distraction from their league form. They did well to get here, sitting in 8th. When you look in the next part of the season, they're going to have to look for wins, and there's no easy games. Like when we think of Newcastle, we don't ever. I mean, Lloyd and I did predict this, so sorry, Eagles fans that came at us in the preseason. Genuinely happened. We were told we were wrong and we didn't know anything, but
Hey ho.
we did say Bristol would be lower, so we got 1 out of 2 right.
Hey, Bristol are on
but-
bad form.
I
Bristol
mean,
are
true,
on bad form.
true. But
Just saying.
Eagles, in terms of the league, have lost 4 in the bounce. They have not won a league game this year yet, and their next 5 games, when you look at them, obviously up to the international break, you go Leicester, Manchester, Surrey, Cheshire, and then Bristol. Like, that's a very, very tough run against teams, which, I mean, all above them, obviously, in the table, but could have a big saying in how likely it is that Newcastle bounce up this table. Like, is that something that Mark Struttel's going to have to be worried about? I'm curious to hear if Eagles fans think there'll be any more roster changes. Obviously, there's been quite a lot of, like, Josh Ward-Hibbert seems to like he's almost back, and he's kind of a crucial piece in their kind of puzzle. But Louis, when you look at Newcastle, what are they needing?
Like, how long do you want me to go?
You go as long as you need to without oohs and ahs.
That's impossible. I can't do that. I'm sorry. But anyway, sorry, what am I doing? Josh Woodhill will be a big help. They need defensive bodies. They need actual wings that aren't like forwards. That's one. That's one part of the quandary, so to speak. Having Terrell, I think it's just fitting all the pieces in because they've got so much talent. No, they have so much talent now. Guys like Okafor, guys like, I mean, even Dion Hammond.
Is Hammond and Okafor under-delivered so far? When we look how much Burden's kind of come in and the final took off, but we've kind of seen Burden kind of just going about his business in the league. His Hammond's been out injured, Okafor's been out injured. So is this maybe a bit harsh? Have they under-delivered so far?
Hammond has. Okafor, I feel like when he played earlier before he got injured, he was looking good.
Yeah,
like
true.
like what I was expecting. Hammond hasn't really, because he's one of these catch and shoot guys, but I'm not sure whether he's really kind of fit in. His shot diet's really tough at the moment. Like, he's taking lots of like really tough like pin downs, etc. You know, which I feel like him as an off-ball guy fitting off of the other guys, you know, with how ISO oriented Newcastle can get, is really helpful. But it's led to some like, you know, tough shot diet, so that's not good. But it's just fitting all the pieces in, you know, because they do have the talent. You know, Rayshon Taylor's a really tough guard. Guys like, you know, like we saw Burden in the finals being, look how we destroyed London's defense basically.
Yeah,
Cole Long's a good catch and shoot. Stretch 4. Go on.
I was just going to throw in, what's our thoughts on how Maceo Jack? Obviously, he came in late, played that opening game of the season, has looked good at times, and he had some massive dunks. Like, was it at least 2 dunks I can remember against London? They were like proper hammer throws. And we know what Maceo can do in this league, but I feel like he at times in this Newcastle team has become much more of a slasher rather than Maceo Jack 2.0 at Cheshire was, you give the ball out the wing to Maceo, he's pulling up for free.
Well, because the issue is, like we were talking about, what were we saying in preseason? They haven't got any guards. You know, they still haven't really got, well, they've got some now with Burden and Taylor, but they've had to rely on Maceo to create a lot.
True.
He's not a good playmaker when on ball. So what does that do to the rest of your offense? You know, if he's not assisting when he's one of the lead creators on your team, you know, it creates stagnant offense. And, you know, we saw in this finals game, Maceo missing threes in the corner.
Yeah.
That's very atypical, you know. So it's just a lot of squad balance, because you have, as you were saying about the guard deficiencies earlier, with Terrell Burden and Rayshon Taylor, you then have the issue of defensively. You know, with Rayshon Taylor not being too great a defender at the guard spot, I think it's fair to say. Terrell Burden obviously having the limitations of being a 5'9" guard. But you need that second guard creator on the floor, because otherwise you're relying on Maceo Jack to create a lot of offense. And as I said earlier, in terms of his assisting and playmaking as a secondary creator, that's not great. So it's like a lot of levers they need to kind of make right, and it's really difficult at the moment. So,
and is that where Josh Ward-Hibbert, as this kind of unsung hero, fixes a few of those issues? I think he's pretty good on the ball. He can create pretty well. He handles it all right. So he's probably a step up in that sense. Defensively, he can defend 1s through to 5 in our league. If Josh Ward-Hibbert's back,
yeah, go on.
the Eagles have lost a few games quite close. Or they've been in games till, they lost to Bristol by 2, they lost to Manchester by 4, they lost to Phoenix by 3. The only kind of blowout loss was that London defeat. Like those last 3 games, add in a Josh Ward-Hibbert. Do they get one of those? Maybe. You obviously can't say for sure.
Yeah.
But a Josh Ward-Hibbert does go a long way of making that team so much better.
It's another defensive body in the rotation, you know, and because Josh Ward-Hibbert's such a good guard defender, you can kind of try to hide Terrell Burden and then have Josh Ward-Hibbert guarding at the point of attack, which is an interesting kind of dynamic.
Which they've done. They've done
a lot successfully. But because we saw at the end of the game, their defensive lineup with kind of Mitch Clark and Terrell Burden, lots of kind of high energy guys, but they have to play really small to kind of access that. So if you have Josh Ward-Hibbert, you know, you then have a wing-sized guy that can also rebound a lot. As we know, Josh Ward-Hibbert's a very high activity player. So that just gives them more kind of rotational options, basically speaking. But go on, Mitch.
I mean, Josh is a glue guy. I think him being back will help. I think my question for Newcastle comes in, how much have we the team they've got, we're seeing how talented they are. We've said how much they can score the ball. That's great. Defensively, they have their liabilities, but what is this team's actual ceiling? If we've already hit their ceiling, then you have to if they want to try and get better, they have to make changes to actually try and push that ceiling higher. If they're not at that ceiling yet because Josh isn't out, you're relying on one player fixing all your problems, which puts a lot of pressure on Josh to fix it. When if they can't find a solution without him, how's he meant to come back in and fix everything on his own? How many changes have Newcastle made this year already?
A lot.
A lot.
Yeah, so I'd be looking at that first to see how many changes they can still make this season. Because if they can't make more than, say, 2 changes on this roster, they're kind of stuck with what they've got. And they need to rely on the players they have, and Stuart will find a system to make it work better and making adjustments to make it work better, which, to be fair, we saw in the final, some of the adjustments he made were really effective in that game against London. And he's got the experience at domestic, European level, international level with GB. He knows what he's doing. In Stuart's we can trust. But does he have the players to execute it? So that's my question, is that what standard of player does he have? Are we going to have a bunch more games this year where you're relying on someone like a Terrell Byrne or a Rayshon Taylor going off for 20, 30 points to get you a win in the game? And how consistent is that model to success in this league when so many other teams have so many different high-profile, high-skill individual guys that can shut them down? I'm just not too sure what they can do to do better unless they make changes. But I couldn't tell you where right now.
So when you look at their, Louis, imports they've used this season, so obviously they brought in Huffman pre-season. He doesn't count. He never played a game. So he doesn't count. Malcolm Smith, he was an import in the end, wasn't he? Mitch Clark, was he an import or was he He's got a
That is
British
correct.
passport. It's Cole. So Cole Long, Malcolm Smith potentially, Rayshon Taylor, Maceo Jack, the big men of Brett Reed. Yes, Brett.
Yes,
Marco
Brett.
Anthony, Dion Hammond, Gus Okafor, and Terrell Burden Jr. So they Cole Long. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, depending on. So they've still got 3. They could still make 3 changes.
Okay, so you're potentially seeing up to 3 different changes on that roster, and you have to go off who's performed and who hasn't. And I mean, from the conversation we've been having, Dion Hammond seems like the easy one to make an adjustment with. But the question, as Lewis has touched on, is what do you replace him with? Because you really need a defensive-minded playmaking guard to kind of probably take that sort of position, take some of the defensive pressure off Terrell Burden, but also help other people get open, take some of the playmaking responsibility off Maceo Jack to help get more effectiveness at him. That's kind of my kind of first thoughts. If you want to make a change, that's where you go. If you're not making adjustments in terms of how you're playing to try and find some success. Because they tried, did they try a zone in the game against London? I don't think they did.
Oh, no. Don't
No,
think so.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did.
Don't remember. If they did, there was maybe 1 or 2 possessions.
Maybe, but I can't remember off the top of my head. It feels like they played 1, but there's definitely stuff they can try with the squad they have. And if they've had success with that hustle lineup, as Louis mentioned there, if they got another proper athlete in who's just going to give you just 25 minutes of just running up and down the court energy-wise, playing hard defense and passing the ball a lot, it's not a bad player to add to your rotation if he's going to help.
All right, let's move on from talking about this. And so well done to London on their win in Birmingham. Eagles commiserations, but big questions ahead for them. I've got 3 other things I want to talk about. Obviously, over the weekend, or just before the weekend, Cam Christen joined the Flyers, which I don't think anyone saw coming really. Louis, what do you think on that one?
No. So what did I put on the X? I put.
You say no because you didn't want me to ask you.
No, I didn't want you to ask me. I did want you to ask me. That's why I'm on the pod, man.
Yeah, this is your area of expertise. Like, come on.
Yeah. So basically, my thoughts were that Cam Christen, I love him as a player. I've really liked him at Cheshire. I don't know what you're mouthing, Mitch. I'm not gonna lie.
I'm waiting for the but. I'm waiting for the but for this.
But in terms of what kind of Bristol need, in my opinion, offensively, in terms of, because they were one of the bottom offenses in the league. They still are. They got a lot of their joy in terms of being like a big defensive team. And I did a post about how Milos Dugalic had a big impact on that because of his size and the way they were able to play, versatile lineups with him as like 6'9" free man, sometimes guarding guards, so that was a big portion of their success. With Cam Christen, that's another body they can use defensively. He's a 6'6" wing. He's a little bit bigger than some of the other guys, so they can put more larger lineups, basically speaking. And obviously he's an athletic defender. He can get blocks at the rim. He's pretty decent at getting steals. But my thing offensively was that kind of their need offensively is kind of for like an import secondary playmaker in the vein of Newcastle, because if we look at all the top offensive teams, they all have a big secondary creation guy, and Bristol's offensive kind of limitations aren't going to allow them to catch up with another wing, if that kind of makes sense. You need another kind of high-powered import kind of. I would be looking at kind of like a swingman, kind of like a 2-3, potentially an import 2-3 that can create a lot. And Cam Christen is not really that. He's like an excellent kind of third option, kind of like as a wing, as a high volume shooter, and efficient slasher when he catches the ball in advantage situations, but he's not going to be creating a lot on ball. And I feel like with guys like Will Yoakum, who, you know, he's not a good creator. Guys like Zach Anderson, who's not too great on ball creator, there's still that deficiency there. You know, if they added another kind of better two guard, which would move kind of Will Yoakum away from having to have that role as kind of, or Will Yoakum away from having to play the two, you know, it'd be their offense would be a lot more potent with more kind of offensive firepower.
I'll try and look at this in the other way to you, because I agree we can have had this debate whether or not he moves their needle. If Cam Christian is the Cam Christian from year one at Cheshire, he doesn't move the needle for them. If Cam Christian is the Cam Christian before he got released from Cheshire, I actually thought he showed real growth at the start of last season in terms of being that creator. He went from being a role player at having a fitter role at Cheshire year one to almost having the same glow up as Maceo Jack did, in my opinion. Like, I think this could be a really interesting move to see what it does. It also gives him an incredible defender, because I think Cam Christian was a very underrated defender in that good Cheshire team because they had so many good players, that he does have the potential to be that guy who in the big moment can step up. Bristol have obviously had added Evan in recent weeks. We're still really to see what that's going to formulate. But is there an over-reliance of still on Joe Anderson? The answer is yes.
Yeah, like, that's my argument, really. Practically speaking, he's the only guy that can create out the pick and roll. Sorry, Grant.
And he's really good at it. So it'll be interesting to see what they lean into. Like, well, what role does Cam Holden have? Like, that's Dugalich's injury is obviously more long term. They've brought in Cam Christian, who's maybe got a bit more versatility to him. Like, I'm now curious to see how this Bristol team, now they've had a break, they've got the international window coming up as well, to see what they do in that last kind of portion of the season, that last third of the season. Like, Bristol could reinvent themselves, because I think they're going to have to with the personnel they've got. Mitch, anything, Dad?
Not really. I think we've kind of covered everything.
Good. Next point. Pat Robinson. We were talking, having watched him properly up close on Friday night, are we in a situation where the sixth man can be in the MVP discussion because he'll be eligible for both?
Hell yeah.
Are we okay with that? Because
yeah.
that man, okay, he doesn't start the game. He finishes every game, of course. He gives me so many Raymond Fletcher, like so much Raymond Fletcher vibes, purely based on the fact that teams try and force him right. Nobody can stop him going left. Every time I watch him, he gets to the basket with his left hand. Every team knows the scout report is force him right, but nobody can stop him. And we've talked about him being one of the biggest ones to watch this season in terms of, well, he's come from Irish Super League. What's he going to do in the British game? And he is flying. Like, he hustles well, he defends well, he can create. His finishing's incredible. But do we think that he could, or not technically, could he win MVP and sixth man if Cheshire finished top? If Cheshire finished second, for example, does he get MVP honours?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's Shavar, but like Pat Robinson, I mean, he's literally the best, most impactful player on the second best team in the league. Like, if you want to whittle it down to that, and his stats are bloody incredible.
Yeah, his stats are insane.
His stats are bloody insane. So I don't care that he's a sixth man. I really don't care.
Pretty unique and incredible that you could have a guy who potentially or not will be in MVP discussions.
Thought of a name. Wes Unseld. I think he won sixth man and MVP in the same year. Maybe fact check me, but NBA, old time, no.
I mean, we're talking about British basketball.
I know. Sorry.
However, for our league to have that situation where this guy comes off the bench, okay, he still plays 30 plus minutes, but he's only started 2 league games all season.
That I find mad.
And okay, I think he started a few more of the trophy. I think he started both trophy games against Newcastle, but different competition. He's only started 2 league games. I just think he's amazing to watch. I really enjoy watching him play. And there was when he's not trying to, he doesn't need to cause a scene. He just plays hard, and teams can't stop him.
He's like a 6'1" Terrell Burden.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know why I said that, but really,
I mean, yeah,
that's a pretty good shout. I would just say that.
But those type of guys over the years have done really well in our league.
Yeah.
So I think I can't remember, we did MVP chat a couple of weeks back, and I don't think I mentioned Pat Robinson, but having now physically seen Pat Robinson, and I think I justified that as a point that I hadn't really seen Cheshire properly yet.
Mm-hmm.
Having seen them on Friday, they were immense. Mitch?
He's deserving of recognition for what he's doing at Cheshire, and start or not, he's finishing games for them. Like how many people do you hear say it's not about who starts, it's who finishes? And if he's who you trust to finish the game and he's come off the bench, you might as well have him the conversation for MVP of the league.
Yeah, because we talked early in the season quite often about it being like Ben having the options of whether to go with LaQuincy. If LaQuincy wasn't having a good game, he was going to Pat. But we're now seeing a lot of times with the two of them are on the floor together, and who's the one being trusted with the ball? It's Pat Robinson.
Yeah.
Like this very much now seems like it's Pat Robinson's team. Is that fair enough, Lee?
Yes, it is fair enough.
Good. All right, final thing I want to talk about is when we look at the league standings and the way it went at the weekend is that all of a sudden, from 1 to 7, is everyone's at like 500. You know what that means? That means they've got the same amount of wins as they do losses or better. A few weeks back, you couldn't have said that, but I just find it a crazy situation where we're now, it shows you how competitive the league is, even if you include London dominating it because they have dropped games to Manchester and Bristol, how anyone can beat anyone this season. And we've seen Newcastle, we've just said they've lost 3 games in January by less than 3 points, for example. Like this could easily be a different discussion where they're actually closer to 500 as well than what they are. But that surely shows just how strong our league is. Like when we talk about like blowing the trumpet for the SLB, of which we all try and do, and Louis, you do it a lot on social media as well by saying the strength of the league. I don't know if this is where you can bring up what you've posted in the last week or so on Instagram with this, or TikTok, sorry, or both, whatever, probably both. Check out Prophecy on those accounts. But I think it's brilliant to see. Like when you talk about predicting who's going to win what and when and however, home records, like you could say, home records are positive, but the weekend on Friday night, 3 away games. You look at the growth of Surrey. Okay, I was going to say the growth of Leicester, but Leicester lost to Surrey again in recent weeks, or again on Friday there. Like it just feels as if anyone on any given night can beat anyone, and it's a really good thing for our league to see. And then you've got a sprinkling of Brits doing their thing as well. Louis, go.
It's just so tough, you know. So if you haven't seen the Instagram post, basically we're saying that we're one of the top mid-tier European nations basketball-wise in Europe, basically speaking. Due to it was like a study that measured like tens of thousands of player moves, whatever. In terms of league strength, it's just so tough. Like every game is basically on a knife edge. You don't know who's going to win. With the kind of strategic adjustments, it's just tough league. So,
but is it a case where every season we look at this and there's maybe 1 or 2 dominant teams, maybe 1 or 2 weaker teams, and that midfield yo-yo up and down? But actually, all it takes, and I want to just get the standings up so I say with fact, because it was up, but I clicked on Newcastle. When we look at the standings, Leicester have not Leicester, that's a bad example. Sheffield have a double header against Bristol and Cheshire this weekend. Sheffield could go to 11-8 and move up at least one place and have games in hand over Cheshire, for example. Like, that just tells you there's so much opportunity to move up the table. Like Surrey, all of a sudden 9-9, playing incredible basketball. Manchester, they've got 2 games this weekend, one away to Cheshire, one at home to Caledonia. And you go, Manchester 2 wins, similar situation, go from 5th to 3rd. And all of a sudden, if Cheshire, I suppose we do points, we don't do win percentages, which would make it a really interesting table, I think, as well. Like, I just feel like every game's got so much jeopardy in the line. And when, for us as fans and people like us who talk about it, it's so exciting. Like, there's so much for stake every game, don't you think, Mitch?
I think there is. I think my only criticism is still the playoffs is 8 teams. That it's all but one team's getting into the playoffs anyway. I think if that was a reduced playoff bracket, I think it'd be a lot more intensity there.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only thing I kind of think goes against it. But 9 teams,
Yeah.
8 can go through the playoffs. The bottom feeder team is 3 games behind the team in next place. Like, it's your top team's dominant, your bottom team's falling away. 8 teams kind of fall and dropped off a bit compared to everybody else. But aside from that, I mean, I just don't know. I do like the fact that we have so much competitiveness across the league. I think it's really healthy. I think it's really good. I just want more teams. I just want more. I want more teams in the league. I want to see if we doubled that number from 9 to 18. How much of a spread is there? You know what I mean?
Let me just say.
The man's going 18. I would take 12. I would take 10 right now. I'd take 11.
I would take 10.
I'm just going far end spectrum here. Okay.
Go on, Lee.
I blame the Meds.
No, it's fine, Rich. It's fine. But let me just say, imagine if it was a 14 playoff with playing, like, so 6 teams possibly making the playoffs. Could you imagine how wild that'd be?
Well, I mean, right now you'd have what top four is what London, Cheshire, Bristol, Sheffield, and then Manchester, Surrey are fighting for a playoff space.
Yeah.
And then your 2 stalwarts of finals, Leicester, Newcastle, aren't involved.
Yeah. It'd be mad.
Absolutely mental.
Absolutely mental.
Absolutely mental.
Absolutely mental.
I just think it's a really exciting season. There's still so much to happen. We've got player signing deadlines a few weeks down the line. Curious to see what teams do to push up the table or to try and make sure they guarantee that 8th spot. If any team takes that risk, it'll be interesting. Injuries could happen, I suppose, as well. And I suppose, end of the day, we spent just a good 10 minutes there talking about Newcastle, but you can't rule them out. Like, on anything. Like, obviously 8 teams make the playoffs.
Yeah.
They won't want to just finish 8th because, well, they then likely play the Lions in the playoffs. But again, they could do some damage in the playoffs because, well, Newcastle are an end of season team where they excel. I mean, like, genuinely, like, I just think with so much of the season still to play, like, we are 3.5 months away from the Old Toot. Get your tickets, get your flights booked, whatever else. Like, it's a very exciting time. And I suppose you could say that the one team that you would write off is the Gladiators. Because factually speaking, they've got 3 wins and went from having a few close games to the last few games haven't been very close. So if you take them out of the equation, like, you look at Newcastle, they've still got a ton of basketball to play, a ton of potential to move up the table, which I think is fair enough. All right, when we look ahead to the weekend, we have got, I think, some incredible games. We've already mentioned some in terms of head-to-heads. 6 games. You've got Flyers versus Sharks, Phoenix versus Manchester, which will be a class game. Wasn't it Manchester that were removing letters from Cheshire in their league table the other week as well?
Yes,
so that
it
adds
was.
a bit of sauce. Adds a little bit of sauce. You've then got Surrey hosting London, which will be good fun. It'll be interesting to see how London bounce back, or not bounce back, but bounce into Surrey on the 7th. That's Saturday, isn't it? It is. And then you've got Leicester hosting Newcastle, always a feisty occasion. Manchester hosting the Gladiators. It's been a long time since those two teams have played each other, and then the weekend is finished with Sheffield hosting Phoenix. And those games have also been a little bit tasty and spicy.
A little bit.
So actually, just a little bit, just a tad, just a little bit of spice, a wee bit of chili sprinkled on top. You know what I mean? So what we're saying is a brilliant weekend of British basketball ahead. Can we argue with that? Anyone want to argue with that?
I can't argue with that.
Can't argue with that. Exactly. Can't argue with that. So that'll do it for this episode of the SLB Show. My thanks to Mitch and Louie. You can watch this, obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube. Hello, if you're listening and watching this on Spotify. Please give us a like, a share, or whatever you want to do. Give us a review, 5 stars, whatever it means, goes a long way. And we'll be back next week with another episode of the SLB Show.